Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. And what a week we have. The big news of the week is the lunar eclipse on Friday. Now, eclipses are big news when it comes to astrology. They are basically the cornerstone of transits and planetary influences. And eclipses are supercharged new moons and full moons. So this week we have a supercharged full moon, which is called a lunar eclipse, and it's happening in the sign of Leo. So this is big news for the fixed signs, or anybody that has planets in fixed signs, which will be many of us. And the fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So if you're one of those four signs, this is big news for you in particular, but the eclipses affect all of us. Now, to find out where your planets are and what signs at the time you were born, you can get a free chart wheel from my website, and that's theastrologer.com. And you'll see in the menu bar, it's astrology. You click on that, and then you'll see chart wheel. It's a free chart wheel, and it will help you keep track of the planetary influences each week that I talk about them on the show. And then you can follow along, and I usually say what signs are more affected by each of the influences per week. So it's a pretty busy week according to astrologers. Of course, the big news is the lunar eclipse. Also yesterday, and I talked about this in last week's show, Jupiter turning retrograde. And if you missed last week's show, be sure to go back to the OMTimes archive and have a listen to last week's show. I will touch on Jupiter retrograde again in this show, but I really went quite in depth last week. Also this week, we have communication planet Mercury moving into Aquarius, and that is tomorrow, Tuesday. And Mercury likes being in Aquarius. Planets have their favorite signs, and they have their least favorite signs, just like some parents with their children, I guess. But Mercury does like being in Aquarius. So that's good news if you're planning any cerebral or intellectual pursuits this month, more so than usual, or having to think outside the box, which will also be supercharged by the eclipse. So the eclipse on Friday, the lunar eclipse in Leo, so it's basically a supercharged full moon in Leo. That's occurring at 22 degrees. So, as I mentioned, this will be affecting the fixed signs more so, and that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And if you were born towards the end of one of those signs, this eclipse will really be affecting you a lot. So that's the first eclipse for February. And the second eclipse in February is the solar eclipse, and that happens on the 26th, and that is going to be at around 8 degrees in Pisces. So that's completely different. Eclipses, and why I'm saying it's completely different, meaning it's in a whole different sign, not only a different sign, but a different type of sign, different categorization. And so this lunar eclipse is in Leo, and the solar eclipse at the end of the month is in Pisces. And then we have the eclipses again in August, and then on August 7th, we have the, how would I call this? Maybe the sibling or maybe the twin? I guess a sibling, because a twin would be the same. But on August 7th, we have another lunar eclipse, and it's in the opposite sign of Leo, and it's in Aquarius. So it's sort of like the opposites, but they're connected. So if this eclipse on Friday in Leo is affecting you, then it's sort of like part one, and then part two will be August 7th. So the journey continues, let's just say. And then the solar eclipse in August is on the 21st, and that is at the last degree of Leo, which actually conjuncts the royal star of Regulus. So that's going to be a very interesting time. And again, particularly if you were born in the last part of the fixed signs, these eclipses will be affecting you more so. Okay, so what does it mean, the lunar eclipse in Leo? Well, eclipses are very intense. That's one thing. And anytime I've given a reading and I see that an eclipse will fall on one of their planets, but particularly a personal planet, and a personal planet means the sun or the moon in particular, or any inner planet, and the inner planets are Mercury, Venus, and Mars, but particularly Mercury and Venus. So when there is an eclipse conjunct, which means next to or on top of a personal planet, I know that that person is in for transformation in some way, or big changes or large events happening in their life that are definitely going to be memorable. So a lunar eclipse occurs when the sun, earth, and moon line up with one another. So basically the earth is in the middle, and the sun and the moon are directly opposite with the earth in the middle. It's a little bit like a tug of war. And so that's a typical full moon. And so, of course, the lunar eclipse can only happen at the time of the full moon. And it's when the shadow of the earth is cast on the moon, and it makes it, it darkens it instead of it being a satellite. It's always a satellite, but not as much. So it's definitely, if you think about it, like a tug of war with the earth in the middle. So lunar eclipses can last for hours and are visible, the moon, the full moon, the lunar eclipse is always visible from the earth, unlike the solar eclipse or the new moon where we have a black sky. With the lunar eclipse, the moon is always full. And also with the lunar eclipses and full moons, they always typically have an impact on our emotional state and usually always affect our relationships with other people. And if you think about the description I just gave with the earth in the middle and the sun and moon exactly opposite with the earth in the middle, it's like we're represented by one side, and other people in our lives who we're close to are represented standing opposite us. So if you're one of these fixed signs, you might be, I don't want to say confrontation, but it could be, because Leo, the lunar eclipse in Leo is a fixed sign, and fixed signs are quite stubborn. when they want to be. When they want to dig their heels in, they can be quite obstinate and wanting to get their own way and not wanting to budge. So that could be a bit of a theme for this week as well. It's like people not wanting to budge and wanting to do things their way and not compromising or giving in. That's the negative. But, of course, the positive is sometimes we need the friction and the tension before there can be a relief or an outcome. It's like sometimes we just need to butt heads before we can move forward. Many of us might find that influence with this full moon in a fixed sign, and again in August with the sibling, I guess is a good way to say it, the sibling eclipse in August. There's usually typical with full moons, and particularly with lunar eclipses, is like a crisis and, as I said, friction or tension, where we might need adjustment. Something has to change or shift. And basically, if there's a circumstance or a situation that hasn't been working, then it's time to find a new approach. And it doesn't come easily because fixed signs, they need to sort of go through it before they can get to the outcome. It's sort of like, it doesn't flow like maybe a mutable sign. It's more about trying different ways that don't work before finding a solution. So many of you out there might be in a situation where something's not working and something has to change. But before the change can come, it's more about you've tried so many other ways and they don't work, so now you've decided it really is time to move on. And we're going to take a short break right now. After the break, I will continue with this week's planetary energy, so stay tuned.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Yelito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Hi, this is John Ondrasik of Five for Fighting, here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. You know, style is a personal thing, and your lifestyle is your business. But if you take it on the road, it becomes everybody's business. So please, plan ahead, designate before you celebrate. Friends, don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service announcement brought to you by RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. Before the break, I was talking about the headline of the week, and that is the full moon lunar eclipse in Leo. So what does that mean? Well, it's going to be a supercharged, intense time, that's for sure. But, of course, it will depend on where this lunar eclipse sits in your natal chart. So to get a free natal chart, go to my website, theastrologer.com. and get a free chart wheel, and that will list all the planets in their signs at the time you were born, and then you can see how each week's planetary influences affects you personally. So the Leo full moon lunar eclipse, Leo is a very creative sign. So if you're a creative person, this is when this project you've been working on that's creative could really begin to take shape. It's a great time for being in the spotlight, and it's a great time for not hogging the spotlight. So just be aware of others. You might be getting a lot of credit for the work that you've been doing, but also think about the other people that have been involved with this same work and share the limelight. I know it's difficult under a Leo lunar eclipse, but that will be very important. So then you can get more of a receptive audience. Leo is a very optimistic and jovial sign as well. So there should be good feelings around mostly. Many of us might be feeling particularly passionate about experiencing life to the fullest. So get out there and do your thing. Others will be paying attention. Colours may seem brighter, people friendlier with this influence. And also playtime and leisure activities are highlighted with this influence as well. Love affairs, that's another influence with this lunar eclipse. So love affairs, there'll be a focus for romance at this time, taking a risk. Of course, always a calculated one, I might add. And also children. Leo is the sign of children, and its connected house, the fifth house, is of children. So children, and it doesn't even mean if you have children in your life, it just means childlike. Childish sounds negative, but it doesn't necessarily mean negative with this influence. It's like getting down to basics, being childlike, maybe taking care of your inner child or nurturing your inner child. That's a very good use of this energy. And also thinking about yourself, taking care of yourself. Leo is a sign that likes to take care of the underdog, but to take care of the underdog, you have to be fully firing first. So it's taking care of yourself first and then taking care of others. So that's a great keyword for this lunar eclipse in Leo, is taking care of the underdog and helping others and leading others, but not in such a bombastic way. It's more of a compassionate way, because always with astrology there's a shadow side or an opposite side. And so the opposite sign to Leo is Aquarius. So basically with this full moon lunar eclipse, the sun is in Aquarius and the moon is in Leo. And Aquarius is all about being a philanthropist and a humanitarian. So you've got both energies at play here with this Aquarius Leo energy. So it's about being able to lead others, but being part of a group at the same time. So it's not just thinking of yourself, but thinking of yourself within a group or within the bigger picture. So also at this time with the lunar eclipse full moon, it's about also having a vision for the future and thinking differently because of that Aquarian energy. It's about thinking outside of the box, and also that's helped along with Mercury moving into Aquarius tomorrow. It's like thinking differently. So how will this lunar eclipse, what does it mean for your sign? How will it be affecting your sign? Well, if you're an Aries, lucky you, because this is all about romance and courtship and entertainment and amusements and pleasure. If you're a Taurus, The focus for you is on home and family. Home and family, you might be thinking of moving or renovating, or maybe visiting relatives or having people come and stay. If you're a Gemini, for you, this lunar eclipse is all about stimulating the mind and the intellect and learning, and even short trips, but any sort of type of communication. Also included in that, siblings and neighbours. There might be something that comes about in that area of your life. If you're a Cancer, this lunar eclipse will highlight money for you. That's spending and saving, and also your attitude towards money in general, and where you sit with your bank balance. How does that make you feel? If you're a Leo, this is all about you, because this is not just a full moon, but a lunar eclipse in your sign. So others will be looking at you. It's all about yourself, your appearance, and you as an individual. If you're a Virgo, this is a supercharged time for you for any sort of psychic ability or intuition. It's a great time to pay attention to your dreams. And if you might happen to be dealing with larger institutions at this time, it's also a time for karma. So be careful what you put out there. And as the saying goes, you reap what you sow. If you're a Libra, connect with friends, something that you typically do anyway. Friends and acquaintances, groups, clubs, associations, online and offline. It's really important at this time to feel that you're part of a group or something larger. If you're a Scorpio, the highlight for you with this lunar eclipse will be on your career and your status and achievements. So this is a good time to focus on your career. There might be lots happening for you this week and this month around your profession or your professional life, so pay attention. If you're a Sagittarius, this influence for you will be around higher education, maybe legalities, anything to do with overseas, religion or philosophy. So this is right up your alley because your sign is the sign of higher education and publishing. So this brings optimism because the lunar eclipse in Leo, it's a fellow fire sign, and Sagittarius is a fire sign. So there's going to be plenty of action for you, lots going on. If you're a Capricorn, this is about money, something that you like. Money, shared resources, taxes, inheritance, insurance, any sort of recycling. If you're an Aquarius, well, this is your, it's not your full moon, but it's your sign is connected to this full moon because the sun is in Aquarius right now because we're in the month of your birthday and have gained the last part of January. But also this lunar eclipse is in your opposite sign of Leo. So this highlights others more so. So other people and what they're doing in your life. So it highlights relationships, in other words, personal and professional relationships. And any sort of agreements that you might make or sign at this time will prove to be quite memorable. And finally, if you're a Pisces, this is a time for you to focus on your health, diet and fitness and daily routine. If you're looking to make a change, this might be the time to do it. So that's the lunar eclipse in Leo. So last week's show, I talked about Jupiter, the planet of luck and good fortune, turning retrograde as it did yesterday on Sunday. So Jupiter will be has been travelling through Libra since September 2016. And Jupiter stays in one sign for approximately a year, and so it will be in Libra until October 2017. So its cycle is a 12-year cycle, and it moves through the zodiac 1 year at a time, one sign at a time. So Jupiter is typically known as the planet of luck and good fortune. It's also the planet of philosophy. And as I just said to Sagittarius, higher learning, anything that's really in-depth or involved to do with the intellect or the mind or learning, that's Sagittarius's realm. So Sagittarius is the sign of, why am I saying Sagittarius? Jupiter is the planet that rules Sagittarius. That's why I'm sort of off on a tangent thinking about Sagittarius. So it's like Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. And so they're very linked and connected. So Jupiter is, and anything to do with Jupiter is intellectually explorative, and Sagittarius is also of that same nature. So as I said, it moved into Libra. Libra is a sign of relationships. And with being in the sign of relationships, many of us from last September through this October will be thinking about our relationships, and it's sort of like make or break time, particularly when Jupiter turns retrograde in Libra. And they say that when a planet is moving retrograde or appears to be moving backwards, the energy of that planet moves backwards as well. It's not always the case, and again, it just depends on how the influence affects your astrology chart and what it's doing to you. But usually when I see a planet that's retrograde, I usually in a reading I will say to somebody, something from the past is coming back and you need to deal with it. So, for instance, with Jupiter in Libra turning retrograde or turned retrograde yesterday, maybe a relationship from the past comes back into the present. And it doesn't mean that somebody just shows up on your doorstep from the past who you used to date. It could be something reminds you of a previous relationship. Or, there's issues that you bring from one relationship to the next. And so it's time to sort of deal with it when the planet turns retrograde. This is more so for the cardinal signs. And the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So it's like dealing with something that was in a relationship from the past, and it's again here in the future. So Jupiter turned retrograde yesterday, February 5th, and it will remain retrograde through June 9th. It moves backwards through Libra until June 9th. And that's typical, a few months every year, Jupiter will be retrograde. A lot of the planets, particularly the outer planets, are retrograde or appear to be moving backwards about 40% of the time. So we're going to take a short break. After the break, I will continue with this week's planetary energies, so stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at consciousgatespr.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turkeye, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this week. Just before the break, I was talking about Jupiter, planet of luck and good fortune, turning retrograde. It turned retrograde yesterday, where it will be through June 9th, in the sign of Libra. So many of us might find ourselves reviewing our partnerships, and that's both personal and professional, during this retrograde period. So it's like I said just before the break, I was saying there might be issues that come up from the past or a past relationship when Jupiter is retrograde through Libra. But some of us might start pondering questions such as what's working between you and your partner, and that's personal or business partner, and what isn't. Such as does the partnership match with my deeply held values? Because Jupiter is also the planet of beliefs and values. And maybe most importantly, am I bringing everything that I can to the table in this relationship to help make it a success? So this is a time to have a really good think about what's working and what isn't, and particularly, and I know I harped on this last week as well, particularly because Venus, love planet Venus, is turning retrograde on March 4th. So in a month, Venus will turn retrograde in Aries. So at that same time, we've got the Jupiter retrograde in Libra and Venus retrograde in Aries. At some stage, they will form an opposition, and so that will be definitely a time make or break in a lot of relationships. And just to add to that, we're going to have a Mercury retrograde on top of that. Joy, oh joy, for lots of people. But anyway, nothing to fear. I've been through worse things. That's how I console myself sometimes. I've been through worse things. I'm not going to worry about that. So with some of us, with this retrograde Jupiter in Libra, maybe with some people, you might have felt like you've been in a bad luck phase. I hear that a lot in my readings. So during this Jupiter retrograde, honest answers to these types of questions may reveal that perhaps we are our own obstacle blocking our own path. I know it's hard to hear, but sometimes with the choices we make in our lives, some of us might be our own worst enemy. Some of us might not be able to say no. I had a reading today, and I could just see this lady wouldn't get out of her own way, because she can't say no. She can't say no. And just on a side note, this lady has Sun square Pluto. So a lot of the issues that she has in her life are with the males in her life. Sun is male, Pluto is power, square is a challenge. And this eclipse will be affecting her as well. So sometimes we need just to get out of our own way for things to run a lot more smoothly. And, when we aren't living according to our truest philosophies, our lives can get out of whack. It's like when we're living for other people, or we're living for our relationship or for our partner, but to our own detriment, that's when we can get ourselves into trouble. And so, of course, the eclipse will highlight this. Jupiter retrograde in Libra highlights this. Next month, Venus retrograding in Aries will highlight this. So, the next couple of months, the next 2 to 3 months are going to be really interesting for many of us. I mean, but when isn't it? But really interesting for many of us because it's going to force us to sort of look in the mirror and confront ourselves in some way. Also with Jupiter retrograde in Libra, maybe, some of us might have been spending too much money or socializing too much instead of focusing on our responsibilities, because Jupiter is also the planet of excess. So anytime Jupiter's involved, it is luck and good fortune and everything's fine and dandy, but on the flip side or on the shadow side, it's about excess and maybe shirking responsibilities. And because it's in Libra, it might be responsibilities around our relationship. And, being in Libra and with this lunar eclipse in Leo, it's all about pleasure and having a good time. So there might be balance that many of us need to seek in our lives. Balance, justice, harmony, and particularly when it comes to our relationships. And, when something is out of balance in our lives, the sign of Libra feels it really keenly. I mean, most of us do, but Libra in particular. So, with Jupiter's retrograde period, it's a good time to figure out which parts of our life are out of balance so we can focus on living a life we truly believe in. Also, during this period, if you aren't inclined to follow anyone else's lead because of this lunar eclipse in Leo, the leader, it's not good to follow anyone else anyway. As far as philosophies and beliefs are concerned, it's good to absorb and learn, but it's a time now to form our own opinion and not just follow along with the crowd. And, at this time, don't be surprised if you finally come to terms with something you believe in that differs maybe widely from the beliefs of your friends and family or even your spouse. And this is not necessarily a bad thing with these types of influences. You're discovering the truth of who you are so you can live that truth moving forward. Okay, so Tuesday, tomorrow, communication planet Mercury moves into Aquarius, where it will stay until February 25th. Now, as I said before, the planets have favorites. They have favorite signs, and then they have their least favorite signs. And the good news is Mercury likes being in Aquarius. It's one of its second favorite sign. Mercury has two favorite signs, and that's Gemini and Virgo, and then it has a second favorite sign, which is Aquarius. So while Mercury is in Aquarius, and of course, as always, depending on how this transit affects you and your natal chart, more than likely your brain will be buzzing with inventive ideas. It's all about innovation and thinking outside the box. And many of us might get sudden flashes of inspiration that open our mind to unusual and unexpected possibilities. And this is more so for the air signs and anybody that has planets in air signs, and that's Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Some of us might even have trouble sleeping at night as the mental gears tirelessly turn in our brains. Because there's just so much to think about. Does that ever happen to you? It's sort of like you're lying, tossing and turning, or you wake up in the middle of the night and there's 20 new good ideas. Maybe it's good to keep a pen and paper. Does anybody still use pen and paper out there? But if you do, keep it by your bedside so you can write down these many great ideas. So, buzzing with ideas, thinking outside the box. Objectivity and rationality can help you get a higher perspective on everyday situations with this energy, and finding, as I said, innovative solutions to an old problem. And that's interesting because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. The modern day ruler is Uranus and the ancient ruler is Saturn. So it's like innovation comes with Uranus and an old problem is Saturn. So Aquarius blends the two of both worlds together really well. And from an intellectual point of view, it's like definitely thinking of a new approach to a problem that might have been hanging around for a while. Only emphasized again by the lunar eclipse in Leo, and so it's the moon in Leo and the sun in Aquarius. Many of us will be making decisions purely based on logic, and we can detach a lot more easily from our emotions. Although I say that, but then of course the lunar eclipse only heightens emotions and feelings. So again, it's all about finding that balance. With Mercury in Aquarius, we're more open to creative thinking under this influence. But some of us also might have a tendency to get overly attached to our own opinions, fixed signs in particular. So it's this week it's for the fixed signs, and that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And once we latch onto a certain idea, some of us could get very stubborn about our idea and might not like to change our mind or be flexible or compromising. Also, during this influence of Mercury in Aquarius, we might be drawn to technology, computers, electronics, science. Definitely we're going to be taking a methodical approach to learning and thinking. Oh, and of course, social media, internet marketing will be very appealing to many of us right now. Also, it's an auspicious time to expand our circle of friends and to extend our influence in the world. Okay, on that note, I'm going to take a short break. After the break, I'm going to continue with this week's planetary energy, so stay tuned.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Welcome back to The Dog Show. Up next we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance will come in with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer Kelly Fox, talking about the planets this week. And geez, we have a lot of planetary energy. Of course, the headline of the week, of the month, of the year is the lunar eclipse in Leo. So, just before the break, I was talking about Mercury, planet of communication, moving into Aquarius. So that's good news. It likes to be coupled up with Aquarius. and that'll be in Aquarius until February 25th, and it's a great time for innovation. And it really does look like this is a really good week for new ideas and being innovative and alternative and definitely thinking outside the box, because we've got the Sun in Aquarius, Mercury's moving into Aquarius, and also on Thursday we have the Sun forming a sextile to Uranus. So the Sun is in Aquarius and it's forming a sextile to Uranus in Aries. This is all about progressive and innovative concepts, which seem perfectly normal right now. Anything that might have seemed weird and wacky, even as recently as a couple of weeks ago, it all seems perfectly fine and dandy and normal now. So this is a time for technology. This is a time for breakthroughs in technology, looking into the future, forward thinking. People can look ahead today and entertain what would normally be considered unique or even an outrageous idea. Definitely seems quite normal this week. And nothing is out of the question when it comes to a lunar eclipse or any type of eclipse. So anything goes this week, and what might seem outrageous in a good way will be the way of the world. Many of us with this Sun sextile Uranus influence will be more open-minded, curious, and interested in change and reform. Progress is highlighted when the Sun sextiles Uranus, attention paid to the humanitarian impact of new plans. It's a great time for any sort of creative intellectual processes, particularly in a group setting, because good ideas spawn even more good ideas, of course. And that really goes hand in hand with the eclipse, because the moon in Leo is all about creativity, and then the Sun in Aquarius is all about groups of people or joining with like-minded people. And, of course, that's both online and offline. And as I'm saying, it's all about technology. It seems like, just stay online, because it's all about technology and being online and connecting with groups. To me, that sounds a lot like social media. So with this Sun sextile Uranus influence, there could be some really interesting encounters with nonconformist bohemian individuals. So don't shun them like you might normally do. So I guess those types of people, their function is to wake people up to an alternate reality. So any attempts at restricting the comings and goings of the general populace will leave most folks feeling chomping at the bit, ready to burst through by force because of the eclipse if need be. We're looking for freedom and spontaneity with this influence. On Friday, we have Mercury forming a sextile to Venus. That's a really nice aspect, because Mercury is really happy with Aquarius, forming a sextile to Venus in Aries. So relationships and communications flow smoothly this week as well with this influence. We can express ourselves and have some sensitivity for our listeners as well. Many of us will be feeling cooperative and inclusive. We might find our speech is polished and articulate. Our emotions are flowing. It's an idealistic time, again, with the other influences, when we hope for the best and possibly avoid looking at the worst case scenario. It's a really, really nice influence. And then on Saturday, we have the Sun forming a trine to Jupiter. So it's an extremely favourable time because Jupiter does hook in to the eclipse. So it's a favourable time associated with good fortune and many opportunities. And there might be so many that it might be hard to pick and choose between them. But we need to keep in mind what's important, and that's the broader vision and the higher principle. So don't bother with little troublesome details that can bog us down. This is a time to look at the big picture and looking at the future. They're really the key words, the theme for this week with all these influences. Also, tolerance and generosity of spirit will be at a peak at this time as well. So it's good to donate our time or money to any sort of charitable organisation. So the only flip side of this is the excess or expansive quality, and that's like watch for extravagance. In other words, so overindulging in food or drink, just keep a check on that. All right, now for your weekly horoscope. So, if you're an Aries, impulsive risks are a huge gamble this week, but you just can't seem to help yourself, and that's not too far out of character. You're driven to take a chance regardless of the consequences. So be very careful if you're flirting with danger in your love life. This is not the week to play with fire. If you're a Taurus, try lateral thinking to deal with a difficult teen or older family member. Tensions may rise at home, but it's important that you stand your ground and allow your authority to shine through. If you're a Gemini, keep an eye on important paperwork. Delays or missing papers could cause anguish at this time. Look out also for someone who wants to twist your words. Social media can be a minefield this week, so engage your self-censor button. If you're a Cancer, a shift in financial circumstances may be good news or bad news, but what matters is how you allow it to affect your self-esteem. Look beyond materialism this week to value yourself as a human being, not just as the owner of a bank account. And security is very important to Cancer, the crab. If you're a Leo, it's time to stand on your own 2 feet. The lunar eclipse in your sign highlights your independence or maybe lack of it. Do whatever you need to do to feel safe, secure, and confident in your own right without having to rely upon others too much. And as I said before, when I was talking about the eclipse at the beginning of the show, it really does highlight relationships, and that is even more so for Leo and Aquarius. If you're a Virgo, more flair and less perfection, please. In work and in your personal life, let go of the need to get everything absolutely right. Instead, focus on being more creative, more daring, and more inventive with your approach to life. It's time to shine, Virgo. If you're a Libra, freedom is a major issue just now, especially if you're a possessive or jealous partner. Allow your loved ones and friends time and space. Take a step back with teenage children or older relatives. Let them find their own feet. If you're a Scorpio, feeling a change of direction coming on, the lunar eclipse may prompt a rethink of your career and life goals. It's never too late to change your path, so be confident in following your dreams, including new ones. If you're a Sagittarius, expect to find your beliefs and principles challenged. You may be forced to stand up for what you believe is right this week. Don't shrink from the fight, as it will definitely be worth your while. And that's more so because your ruling planet Jupiter just turned retrograde. So these issues are probably going to be around your relationship. Or relationships, but the close and personal relationships. If you're a Capricorn, find a better way to approach those people you don't really get on with. This week, it's up to you to bend rather than waiting for them to do so. It's important that you get your point across, even to the most difficult of audiences. If you're an Aquarian, Your public image is brought into sharp focus now, and you'll be very conscious of how you come across to others. If you're looking for love, come out of your shell and interact more. Love can't find you while you remain silent. And I can't emphasize enough that any type of eclipse, particularly when it's in your sign or your opposite sign, really is a hallmark of major change or a year to remember or a time to remember. It really is about, when I say intensity, it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It just means that there's a lot that's going on in your life at this time. It will definitely be a time to remember. And finally, if you're a sweet Pisces, stop drifting. You need a plan. Take control of your life now by becoming more organized. By improving your time management skills and setting clearer priorities, you can pack much more into your day. And as I mentioned before with the lunar eclipse, it's all about as well focusing on your health and wellness. It's about routine. And also we are in the year of the fire rooster, and the fire rooster is all about routine. So particularly if you're a Pisces or you have planets in Pisces, this is a time to be setting really good routines, and not just the boring stuff like going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time and eating breakfast at the same time, but routine will be the structure of your life. Anyway, that's it for this week's show. Thank you for joining me, and good luck with the lunar eclipse, and tune in next Monday to find out more. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox, and this is The Astrology Show.